welcome to the Upkeep for March 18th, 2019.
That's right, you're listening to all of the Magic news that you need.
All right, so our first item up for Magic news this week is, of course, the Grand Prix from last weekend, which were in Tampa and Bilbao.
That's right.
The format was modern.
So in Bilbao, Is It Phoenix took first in the hands of Guillaume Matignon.
Well, I mean, that deck is quickly rocketing to the top of modern, and Guillaume's a great player as well.
Yep, there were 2 copies of that particular deck in this top 8. There was also Whir Prison.
Oh, this is also one of the new hotnesses in modern.
Yes, kind of like a new evolution of a Lantern Control style deck that just doesn't allow your opponent to do anything.
And I'll tell you what else has been steadily on the rise over the past few months. Dredge.
Yes, it's true.
There was 3 copies in the top 8 of Bilbao.
Perhaps looking forward to that London Mulligan, which we're going to talk a little bit more about later on in the show.
Yes, absolutely. So the other Grand Prix that we visited past weekend was Tampa.
That's right. Here, Grixis Shadow took first, and Roshan Epen was piloting it.
That is just like Grixis Shadow, welcome back.
I know, blast from the past there. But in second place, Is It Phoenix? With another blast from the past, Matt Costa.
Yeah, Matt Costa
in
second. And this time there was 4 copies of Is It Phoenix in this top 8.
Yeah.
Which is very, very many. It's half of it, obviously.
Also another control deck, Lantern Control.
Sam
in
Black.
this case, piloted by Sam Black.
And I've got to get a shout out to Case Johnson playing my Bogley Boys to a top 8 finish here, finishing 4th.
Nice.
With the Hexproof creatures. So there you go. That's a look at how the top 8 shook out from our past Grand Prix, which didn't have coverage, at least video coverage, this past weekend.
That's right. In terms of the Tampa metagame, Is It Phoenix, day 2, topped the field by a huge margin, making up almost 20% of the day 2 decks in Tampa.
That is more than I can remember any deck being ahead but in my recent memory.
Absolutely. Next up was Burn and Tron and Humans, each with about 7%.
That makes sense.
And then, like you said, Dredge back on the rise at 6.3%.
Right under
field.
Dredge is the Rock, which is a green-black deck that's kind of been steadily rising. And right under that, Grixis Shadow, another green-black X deck, which I would say those kinds of flavors of decks also on the rise in modern.
Yeah, definitely the noteworthy thing, though, Is It Phoenix just dominating this field.
Completely decimating the competition as far as numbers in the top 8, overall percentage of the field. This deck is just, may I ask the question, too good?
It's a question.
I don't know.
It's the question that I assume is going to start being on people's lips after these finishes.
Yeah.
We've seen it slowly climbing, and I think that perhaps in London we're going to see how that shakes out.
Yeah, that's a good point. Humans, by the way, getting a little bit of new tech this past weekend, at least on emerging onto more people's radars. Anafenza the Foremost being added to these Humans lists specifically because it can deal with graveyard stuff.
Yep.
Which I think is pretty interesting.
Next up, we're going to have a first look at War of the Spark previews and a brand new trailer at PAX East.
All right, I'm excited. Magic the Gathering from their official account tweeted out on March 31st at 10:30 Eastern time. Get your first look at War of the Spark during our live panel at PAX East. We're kicking off the final day of the Mythic Invitational with a trailer debut unlike anything you've ever seen. Okay.
Yeah.
And a ton of card previews, and you can watch it on Twitch, of course. All right, I'm into it.
Same, absolutely.
They tweeted, by the way, a picture of Ajani, this art.
Yes.
Which
it looks like a bunch of planeswalkers with their sparks being pulled out of them.
Yes, it does.
And it looks both agonizing and terrifying.
Yeah.
It does not look like a happy occurrence.
No.
Any of the people pictured there.
I'm hyped for that.
Yes. Next up, we've got the 2019 Challenger Dex announced. These are the decks that you can crack open and take to an FNM or similar event. They're standard decks that are ready to pilot from the top of the field. Not quite every copy of those winning decks, of the cards in those winning decks, but pretty dang close and at a really great price.
Yeah, they're priced to move, and of course you can modify them as you see fit, add more mythics. First one is United Assault, which is a mono white weenie deck, which is pretty cool to see. I mean, I'm not biased or anything.
Next up, we've got Lightning Aggro, which is a classic mono red aggro. Everyone who gets that one is a monster.
Up next, we've got our green-black Golgari deck called Deadly Discovery.
Very, very cool. Classic, tons of Explore in here, and plus all of those wild growth walkers.
Value Town USA, grind them out.
And finally, we have Arcane Tempo, which is a Drake's deck that has Arclight Phoenix, Niv Mizzet, Goblin Electromancers, Crackling Drakes, and Murmuring Mystics, along with a whole bunch of instants and sorceries.
I love it. These Challenger decks are really great and kind of an introductory way to get somebody to FNM or playing Standard when it's kind of a little bit daunting to go in with 0 cards already off the bat.
Yep.
Next up from the PAX Invitational, speaking of, streamers are now allowed to co-stream the event, meaning that they can stream it from their channels and give their own commentary or reactions over the stream itself. And you've seen this in other video games and stuff like that. And so now this finally being the first time people can officially do that with Magic is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So another way to watch the Invitational, your favorite streamer might be co-streaming it.
Next up, Frank Karsten wrote an article about the London Mulligan. So this is the new Mulligan rule that Wizards of the Coast is trying out at Mythic Championship London, which is notably modern.
Yes.
And he looked at it and basically said, it benefits combo decks.
Yes, so he said specifically any decks that care about a certain set of cards
in their opening hand
will benefit greatly from the London Mulligan. And I think this is kind of no surprise. It makes perfect sense why this should be the case. His other takeaway from this, also not a surprise, fewer games will be decided by a Mulligan.
Yeah.
But you know what? He backed it up with the math to prove it. And what I think this also shows us is that we talked about it, Dredge.
And
Tron are 2 big players that we might see more of in London because of this. Like mulling down to sometimes even 4 cards can be super beneficial if you only need 2 cards, like to really go
make your deck happen.
Yeah, in your opening hand.
He also looks at some of the decks that this is not nearly as advantageous for. Classics like Burn and Humans.
Yeah, and you can check that out on Channel Fireball. The entire article also talks about interesting things like how often you can expect a leyline in your opening hand with this Mulligan rule, or leyline hate, for example. Frank Karsten, aka Frankie Numbers, always going deep on the math for us. So that's a pretty cool article to read. And like we said, we are looking forward to seeing this Mulligan in action in London coming up.
Weird place to try it out.
Yeah, but you know what?
Here we go.
If you want a stress test, this will give you a stress test. I'll tell you that.
Next up, we've got the new Wizards Play Network has been announced on a article in the Mothership.
Yeah,
today.
Daily MTG, you can check that out. It's basically simplifying the Wizards Play Network system for your local game store. This will be more relevant to them, of course, but you can see it happening a couple of ways. It's going to simplify the tiers that stores are based on, so either premium or basic WPN Wizards Play Network stores. And if you make it all the way to premium, of course, you get more rewards to give out to your players. And the thing that you most will see happening is the promo foils. They're going to do them in a little bit of a different way. They're going to be 4 to a pack, and you're going to still get that foil. You're going to get another random premium kind of card and a couple of other cards in a pack of 4, which I guess is kind of cool.
Yeah.
A little more value for you there. Hey, if you want to check out our full-length podcast, it's Good Luck High Five. Search for that where other fine podcasts are found. And you can always support us on Patreon, on patreon.com/GLHFMagic.
Remember, if you have a moment to leave a review for this on whatever application you are using to listen to podcasts, and you can always go download that Alexa skill and have Alexa play this for you with your little morning update.